Hey, what is going on, you guys? Welcome to another episode of the Trainer Talk. Today, we're going to be talking about setting up a healthy environment, also adopting a different mindset where you approach things by adding things in instead of trying to avoid unhealthy habits. So, starting with that, when we think about adopting a new diet, for example, you start a new diet, you think about all the things that you need to cut out of your diet. So, maybe you're a pop drinker, you want to try to cut out pop, or you need to cut out carbs, try to cut back on sugar, or cut back on eating fast food. That is way harder than just focusing on adding healthy stuff in. And we want to try to get you guys to adopt that type of habit rather than the avoidance habit. So instead of focusing on cutting things out, what can you do to add things in? So you could try to focus on adding in more vegetables, adding in more fruit, adding in more protein, adding in more water. So that would be much, much easier than taking stuff away. And to give you an example, which is straight from our nutrition course, if you were to just add in a serving of vegetables every day, you could probably do that every day, every week, every month, maybe even every day for a full year pretty easily, because you're just adding in a serving of vegetables. Whereas if we said you have to cut out all sugar for a day, okay, you can maybe do it for a day, but could you go a week? Could you do a month? Could you go a year with no added sugars? It would be much, much harder to do that than just to add in more vegetables. So that's what we want to try to do. I'll let these guys maybe give some examples of how you can start to do this in some different ways that maybe they've done it.
Yeah, and to think about at least the psychology behind it, because I find that really interesting, is by not focusing on the negative. So there's the fun mind experiment of don't think of a purple elephant. Probably just thought of a purple elephant in your head. Your brain doesn't really notice the negatives and it can't really process that. So if all you're thinking of is don't have this, don't have the cake, don't have the donuts at work, don't do this, don't do that, your mind is constantly focusing on that and the more that you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Versus if you're constantly focusing on the healthy habits of like, okay, I got to get my servings of vegetables in. Okay, I got to drink my bottle of water. Like the more you think about it, the more you focus on it. But at least when it's a positive thing, you're getting that reward. You're getting that dopamine hit every time you do the action. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're cutting something out, you're not necessarily getting rewarded every time you say no. You only get punished when you slip up inevitably because you're basically set up to failure at that point. So long term, that's why those don't really work. Whereas you kind of laid out long term, if by adding in something that you can do for a year or longer, that's the best approach to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I like to do for that is like you just keep track of that to have those daily wins or like that little check off. Some people like to maybe do like marbles or, they have a jar, they got marbles on one side, empty jar on the other, and then every time they do the habit, they move it over. You could do like a tally sheet. You could do, like a Google tracker, like every day you do the habit, like that's what we have, or certain apps to keep track of every day that you do a certain habit. So that way you get that little dopamine hit. You're keeping track of what you're doing, but not worrying about cutting other things out. So you're still rewarding and still tracking that habit and then making that positive difference moving forward.
Yeah, so one thing that I kind of like to do, because again, like I get cravings, we all get cravings and things that sound really good to us. One thing that I love recently is wheat thins. I don't know why, it's maybe a pregnancy craving, I don't know. But anyways, instead of telling myself like, oh no, I can't have wheat thins because technically they're a processed food, they're not the best food, I will, if I'm really craving it, I will let myself have like a handful of wheat thins, but on top of that, I will add in some fruits and vegetables or some protein or just something else to go with it so that I'm not, because otherwise you'll sit there and eat the whole entire box because they're not filling, they're not going to hold you over for a very long time. So just thinking about if you really are craving something, like don't deprive yourself too much because then it can lead to binging or just eating more of that later on in the day. Allow yourself to have like something that you are really wanting, but add in something else on top of that. And then another thing is just like having those healthy fruits and vegetables ready to go, already washed, already cut up. That's kind of was always my issue, is I wouldn't cut up my vegetables right away. And so when I'm like starving for a snack, I go for the wheat thins because they're already there, they're already ready. But if I have my vegetables cut and washed up, and what we've kind of learned is like a veggie bucket in your fridge, instead of putting them in the drawer where they're just going to go bad, having them right front and center, the first thing you see when you open your fridge, so you can grab some vegetables to have with your wheat thins or whatever it is, just to make life easier, and then you're not overeating on other like processed foods, I guess.
Yeah, my idea of an example of how adding something good is better than taking, and easier than taking out something bad is pretty similar. It's kind of something that I'm working on right now as well, and it's restricting the calories. So rather than counting my calories all day and restricting myself, when I get these cravings, I allow myself to have foods, but I make sure that they're good foods. So it kind of goes back to what you said. It stops you from, at the end of the week, binge eating because you've been restricting yourself all this time. So rather than constantly restricting, you're kind of following your hunger cues and allowing yourself these foods, but making sure that they're healthy and good choices.
Yeah. So that leads right into our next kind of part of this is we're adding in better options. So how can we make this easier? So Caitlin mentioned the veggie bucket. Doran mentioned just having healthier foods. So making the healthier choice the easier choice. So setting up your environment will really help you succeed in this, because if you don't have readily available options, that's when we tend to turn to the bad stuff. And then you beat yourself up because you think you failed. And we want to try to just avoid that as much as possible, and really try to just focus on adding in the good stuff. And the nice thing, just to kind of go back a little bit, is as you begin to add better stuff in, you will naturally start to wean away from the bad stuff. So that's why it's another reason why it's really important just to focus on, okay, what can I do to get more protein? What can I do to get more vegetables? Eat more fruit, drink more water, things like that. If you drink, if you went from 0 glasses of water to 4, you're probably going to naturally drink less pop, just because you can't drink all that fluid in a day. So instead of thinking about taking away pop, just add in the water. Over time, you'll naturally get rid of the pop. So just wanted to add that on. But setting up a good environment. So when I picture this, if you picture your kitchen and you walk in and you've got like a basket of potato chips or snacks, pretzels, whatever it is, you're probably very likely just to go and grab some chips and start eating them. And since they're so basically empty calorie, they're not very nutrient dense, you could pretty much mow down on the whole entire bag of chips. Like she said with the wheat thins, like it's easy to eat a ton of them because they're not filling. So you can have those, but put them in the cupboard where you can't see them. Replace that with bananas and apples, fruits, and then right when you open up your fridge, you've got a veggie bucket. So right in front of you, you know how the vegetables is right at the bottom of your fridge and it's got the humidity check thing? You have to bend down to take out your vegetables, and then usually we don't cut them up or prep them. So by making sure you wash them, cut them up, prep them, put them in a bucket, put them in the middle shelf eye level. That way the first thing you see is your vegetables, and you can peel those out and start snacking on them. And, for me, like I was literally just telling them, something I might start doing is I really like hummus and I really like peanut butter. So to get more vegetables in, I want to add more vegetables in. I'm going to slice up celery sticks, wash and clean those, get those ready, and then buy carrots and have those ready to go. So I have carrots and hummus, celery, and peanut butter as a really good healthy snack to get more vegetables in without necessarily cutting something out. So that's what I picture when I see environment, to help you with your nutrition. And then on top of that is just making sure you're prepared for the week. So try to come up with some sort of plan. The easiest thing you can do, a really good one that we just learned in our nutrition course is for snacks, is to pick 2 and make 10. So pick, 2 different food items that are healthy snacks. So this could be a protein and a vegetable, a protein and a carb, like a fruit. So for example, maybe you do yogurt and berries, or a banana and some almonds, any 2 foods, and then you get 10 of them ready to go. That way you've got snacks for every day during the week. So that was very cool as well. I'll let these guys share some other ideas with you.
Yeah, and kind of on the why environment is so important is there's the analogy of like willpower is a fleeting friend or a very flaky friend. Like they'll RSVP for the event, like you have such good intentions with it, but then they don't show up when you really need it. So relying on just willpower to like say no is just not going to happen all the time. Like it's better if you just only have to rely on your willpower very occasionally, because it doesn't always show up, just like that flaky friend. So by having your environment set up for your success and making that healthy choice the easy choice, by having, maybe some fruits out in a basket instead of, candy or something like that, that's going to be easier. And I mean, like, we could all probably testify that if we had those favorite snacks of ours sitting out, we would eat them every day probably. Just because when you see it, you want it. If you don't see it, you don't think about it. Same thing with, like your fruits and your vegetables. If you see it, then you'll be like, oh, maybe I should have this. But if it goes into the drawer of death and hides there, you don't see it until it's too late. And then you're throwing it out and all the good intentions will go out the window just with it. What I like to do for my snacks is, following the protein and then the fiber. So source of fiber, source of protein for that sustained energy and fullness throughout the day. I will do like containers of washed either like strawberries or blueberries. I have the bananas, and then I have like a little bento box with different compartments, so I can put in my fruits, my vegetables, my hummus, my nuts, different things like that. So that way my snack, I have like a snack box to go. And that makes it super simple for me.
Yeah, so I already kind of talked about having the vegetables there and ready to go, fruits all washed up too. And then another thing I was going to say is like they said, like putting things out of sight that you don't want to think about every single day. I mean, we still have candy in our house from Easter, and I could throw them away, but instead I just put them up in a cupboard that I don't get into a lot. So it's up, so it's not like in the cupboard that has some of your healthier snacks in it, like that you may open every single day, because then you are looking at it every single day and you're more likely to grab it. So I just always put those things, if you have, because I mean, we're all human and it's okay to have some candy every once in a while, but put them up somewhere that you're not getting into every single day, so you're not thinking about it every single day.
Yeah, and I think that there's kind of a second side of having a good environment with your social support system. So like having members of the family around you that are supportive of your journey, of your trying to switch over to these healthy habits or make new ones. And it can be hard if you don't have those kind of people. Like if you're going out to eat and everybody's ordering, not good food, and you're the one ordering, like a chicken salad or some like the healthy options on the menu, and you get shamed for it, and that can be tough too. So surrounding yourself with the right people, and sometimes those people are there, but they're just not educated. They don't know about these healthy habits, and sometimes it can help to educate them along with yourself along the way, and that can kind of help build that social support system.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And it really comes down to just explaining to the family why you're making these changes. So you might have to kind of, dig deep and actually explain like what you're going through, why you're making these changes. Maybe you're unhappy with, the way you feel and the way you look, and you want to make these changes so you feel better and gain confidence and become a healthier person. Maybe you want to be a role model for your family and explain to them that this is something I need to do so that I can better serve you guys. So really making sure that everybody's on the same page. And just to go back, just a real quick example, like when Caitlin mentioned, like kind of if the option's right in front of you, you're going to choose probably the less healthy option. Like we're all human. We like desserts and snacks just as much as anybody else. And so something that I get from time to time is this really delicious like chocolate peanut butter trail mix. And if we have that, I will always get that option. But when we don't have it, I make oatmeal with blueberries, pecans, and protein powder. And so I will have that snack, and it's delicious. I love it. I eat it every night after dinner, like while we're watching TV before bed, and I'm fine with that snack. But then once I have the unhealthy snack in there, I always choose that one over the oatmeal. So just by separating and getting rid of, or just putting it in a cupboard where you don't know where it's at, or having those other healthier choices easily available, makes it so much easier when you clean up that environment. So I just wanted to add that on. That's all we have time for today. So hopefully you guys got some value from this. Start just thinking about what can you add in, and make it simple, make it easy. Start very small and then slowly start to add more and more things in. I wouldn't recommend like adding in, 5 servings of vegetables, drinking more water, working out every single day. Like, don't add too much in at once. Start with one thing. Once you can do it for a couple of weeks or a month straight and get it consistently, then add in the next thing and keep building on that. And then you'll notice that you'll get rid of the bad habits as well. So hopefully that helped. We'll see you in the next episode. Make sure you like and subscribe, and have an awesome day, everyone. Bye.